We have some exciting technicals to take a look at, and it's CPI day. Let's talk about it. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education, and Moby Dick popped out of the water, landed on Captain Ahab, and Moby Dick said, "Am I on the beach?" And Captain Ahab said, "Well, I'm not sure." I feel like that setup took too long. Let's get right into it. So let's look at the SPY. Here we go, rising wedge pattern. We are right about near where we closed yesterday in the pre-market hours this morning. And so this is the calm before the storm at 8:30. And so Jerome Powell spoke yesterday, sounded kind of hem-hawish, if I would say so myself. And really, I think that it could go one of two ways. One, he really does believe that inflation isn't really that big of a deal. Two, he could be telling the markets that it's not that big a deal, so we don't treat it like a big deal, so that it becomes a self-fulfilled prophecy. I think either one of those things could be very likely. PPI numbers coming in hot with some downward revisions that we had to the previous month. So for CPI, it's highly likely that we still get some hot numbers coming in there as well. We need to be watchful for that. I think that can make the big decision between whether or not we get a double peak coming out of this, a double top on the S&P, along with this rising wedge pattern that we had that could send us back down if we get higher than expected inflation numbers. And then looking at QQQ, pretty much the same thing. And if we actually get cooler than expected, or if we meet expectations for the CPI numbers, I think either one of those things could allow the market to flourish for a little bit longer. So we would be watchful for those numbers as they come out. So moving over to BTC, still kind of just marking time right now, waiting around to see what exactly happens with the CPI. And you can see we clearly have this red 50 EMA in our way. We have this inverse head and shoulders that we just can't seem to break this neckline that we have right here. We do not only need to break over the red, over the white, over the blue. Hey, how patriotic. This blue one, by the way, is the 50-day simple moving average. Should we clear that, we got ourselves a decent amount of upside back up into the 70,000 range for Bitcoin, which means that we need to be able to clear about 65,000 in order to solidly see that. We want to see a full candle above that, and it'd be great to have volume confirmation for Bitcoin. Dropping below 60,000 is going to be bearish for us. We need to be on the lookout for that. So moving over to Enphase. Enphase yesterday popped up to 120. Checked out the top of this trend line. I did move it up a little bit. I believe that I had it down here where we find most of those tops coming in, but it does seem like now that we have that third position right there, so 1, 2, 3, that's where we're really finding that resistance coming in. And I talked about the narrowing of the Bollinger Bands, the compression that we have with all the exponential moving averages and the simple moving averages. This thing I still think is going to crack one way or the other, and I think that we're going to get some upward pressure coming off of that. The RSI is suggesting that. The fact that we're above the 50 and the 200 is also suggesting that. So if the CPI is there to support us and that we either get lower than expected or at expectation numbers, it's possible that Enphase finally starts to get its time in the sun, if you will. So be on the lookout for Enphase, please. I think it's highly critical that we do so. Tesla also starting to show some bullish signs, still down below the 200, so still bearish, but we're above the 50 SMA, above the 50 EMA. We're getting an EMA cross between the 5 and the 13, possibly getting that cross above the 50. So if we go a little bit bullish on Tesla, we could probably go a lot bullish on Tesla and finally see that $200 price tag come out again in the near future. If not, we're heading back down to in the 160s, I would say, maybe down to 160. Maybe we can retest all the way down here at 150. And that would be that something bad happened with inflation. I think that's what it would take at this point in time. NVIDIA with their earnings next week. Still got my stock price prediction out at $1,000. If the markets go bullish on us, I think that we could still absolutely see that price tag happen. So up there's that 1,000. We're all the way down here. So that's an 8 or 9% bump. Not unheard of, certainly not out of reason, but we definitely need some hype going with it. Going all the way back to, we've really traded sideways since about May 6th. So we're at about the 9th day right now, calendar-wise, for that movement for NVIDIA. So watch and see if we can finally break to the upside on that one. And then moving over to Netflix. Netflix stock gets upfront optimism. So they have an upfront presentation day on May the 16th, and that's important. This is a bonus for all of you who stuck around this long, by the way, because on the weekly chart, they actually have a rising wedge pattern that, due to earnings, they broke out of. They've recovered, and now they're getting darn close to retesting that. So we are retesting this peak that we have back here, possibly retesting the underside of this trend line right here for resistance. That can be a bearish thing that sends us back down. We do have just a little bit of divergence still happening down here on the RSI. Crossing down below 50 would be one of those surefire things we'd be looking for. And so for Netflix, absolutely on the lookout for this one right now. We could actually have big news. Well, first of all, we could sell the news today in the markets. We could also sell the news tomorrow, or if we hear big news about their ad-supported tier, and it's something that's going to be a huge revenue driver and a huge margin expansion for Netflix, if that's seen as bullish, we could start to retest the all-time high that we had in Netflix stock, that we could be going back close to that $700 mark. So be on the lookout for that. If we start selling, we could probably keep selling for a little bit. And if we break that top at about 638, we could be retesting 700. So Netflix, absolutely excited. And guys, here's the last and final bonus, a penny stock for you. Don't bring them out very often. Digital Turbine, which has sold off significantly over time. Check out this descending wedge pattern that we have. And just yesterday, we came back up above the 50. We tested out the 50 EMA that we have right here, got rejected. In the pre-market hours, we're giving it another shot. So what we want to be looking for is volume confirmation coming into this. We want to see that break up above the 50-day. And if we get that, especially if it's volume supported, especially as we start to see meme stocks popping off GameStop and AMC, then this is also one maybe that hasn't quite hit yet that we could be early arrivers on. And I have a call option position out on this. I have that out to my Patreon. You can find that, actually it's in the Discord through my Patreon. That link is down in the description. You guys can check that out. See how I'm playing this stock for you with those call options and the expiration date, strike price, all that kind of stuff. This, I believe, is a 7 to 10x opportunity. If it hits, takes us up to about that 200-day. And then if it doesn't hit, well, it's a very low amount of capital. So it being a penny stock, highly volatile, super high risk, but I know that some people out there like to be stock market cowboys, like to play that lottery and try it out. So I wanted to share that with you. And then let's do one more just real quick, and that's Ocugen, receiving some positive news this morning. Actually popped up in the morning hours in the pre-market here, up to about $1.80 or so. You can see that happening as they close the medium dosage of one of their clinical trials for dealing with the eyes and gene therapies. And so just another penny stock out there, just another one that I have a position on, one that's actually paid us handsomely over in the Discord and brought to us by Kiko Stocks in that Discord. So thanks again, buddy. It was a great call on that one, riding this one since about 56 cents per share. We saw it that $2 range, got to sell some calls on it. Also bought some calls leading up to that point in time. It's been a wild ride, and I expect more of a wild ride to be coming out of Ocugen as well. So guys, I'm going to wrap this thing up. As always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my commentary. If you want to see my buys and sells and join that community, the link for the Patreon's down in the description. And then also, if you learn to do technical analysis like I do and take your trading game to the next level, you can do so using the link down in the description for that trading course. As always, guys, I really do appreciate your time that you spend here. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning, and we'll see you in the next video.